Namaskar, a warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Meenakshi Bahuguna, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. The headlines. External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, meets his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Moscow on the sidelines of SCO meet. India invites France to invest in defense corridors. France supports permanent seat for India at UN Security Council. Joe Biden accuses Donald Trump of betraying Americans on coronavirus. Trump calls playing it down a way to avoid panic in public. India and Japan agreed to enhance interoperability between the two armed forces. And in tennis, Serena Williams enters US Open singles semi-finals. The foreign ministers of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) met in Moscow and exchanged views on regional and international issues. They reviewed preparations for the upcoming SCO summit. On the sidelines of the SCO meet, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is meeting his Chinese counterpart. While briefing media on this meeting, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said,
Council for Foreign Ministers meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which India is attending as a full member. And on the sidelines of this CFM meeting, EM has had bilateral meetings with foreign ministers of member countries. He met the Russian foreign minister on the afternoon of 9th, that is yesterday. And we have a special and privileged strategic partnership with Russia, and this year marks the 20 years of our strategic partnership. This was the first physical meeting after the COVID situation, and there was excellent discussion on bilateral matters, on regional developments and international issues of concern. The two ministers also followed up on outcomes of PM's visit to Vladivostok for the 5th Eastern Economic Forum in September 2019. In this meeting, bilateral economic issues and cooperation in the development of Far Eastern region of Russia was also discussed between the two ministers. And we also discussed cooperation in nuclear and space sectors. The two ministers agreed to work closely in the UN Security Council during India's forthcoming tenure as the non-permanent member.
India is scheduled to host the meeting of Council of Heads of Government of the SCO in New Delhi on 29th and 30th November 2020. This will be the first Prime Minister-level meeting to be hosted by India since its elevation as a full member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO). More from Prashar Bharati, special correspondent in Beijing, in this report.
India will also be hosting two ministerial-level meetings of SCO member states. The Justice Ministers and the Trade Ministers are scheduled to meet before the heads of government meet. Trade Ministers are expected to meet in last week of October, where India will launch SCO Startup Forum. All the member states have supported India's initiatives in the run-up to the heads of government meet in New Delhi. This affords India an opportunity to contribute in a substantive way to the trade and economic agenda of the SCO, which has emerged as a key regional organization in the Eurasian space in the past 2 decades of its existence. India attaches great importance to SCO as it provides an excellent platform for it to connect with its extended neighborhood. Anshuman Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
Rafale fighter aircraft has been formally inducted into the Indian Air Force. Defence Minister of India Rajnath Singh and his French counterpart Florence Parly graced the occasion. Mr. Singh said the Rafale deal was a game changer for India's national security. He said its induction is a strong message for the world, especially for those who challenge India's sovereignty. He invited French defence manufacturers to invest in defence corridors in India. Meanwhile, as a mark of a strong Indo-French friendship, the French Defence Minister reiterated her country's support for India's candidature for a permanent seat in United Nations Security Council. Moving on to the U.S. presidential election campaign trail, the Democratic candidate Joe Biden accused President Trump of betraying American people. He alleged that Trump knowingly lied about the deadliness of the novel coronavirus. On the other hand, Trump said he knew how deadly and contagious the coronavirus was. However, he played it down as he did not want to create a panic. The United States has suffered the highest number of coronavirus deaths in the world. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. In another setback to China, the U.S. has revoked more than 1,000 visas of its nationals. The State Department said the move is part of the efforts to prevent Beijing from using students and researchers to steal intellectual property, technology, and other sensitive information. On June 1st, the United States began implementing a presidential measure to restrict the entry of Chinese graduate students and researchers with ties to China's military. In another development, the member of European Parliament said that the European Union must address China's human rights violations in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region and Hong Kong. They said that the European Council discussion on the EU-China investment agreement should be subject to China respecting human rights. Japanese Defense Minister Taro Kono has called for increased cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. He pitched to a larger regional mechanism or global mechanism to counter China in the region. China's territorial claims in the South China Sea, its efforts to advance into the Indian Ocean are seen to challenge the established rules-based system. Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei and Taiwan have counterclaims in the South China Sea. In recent years, Japan has expressed increasing concern regarding Beijing's activities in the region, especially concerning the situation with the disputed Senkaku Islands. The islands, known in China as the Diaodao Islands, are claimed by Beijing to be its territory. India and Japan have signed an agreement on reciprocal provision of supplies and services between their armed forces in New Delhi. The agreement will enhance interoperability between the two armed forces, thereby further increasing the bilateral defense engagements under the Special Strategic and Global Partnership between India and Japan. The number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise globally. As the figures cross 27.68 million mark, US and India have the largest number of cases, followed by Brazil. However, in India, the total number of recoveries has crossed 3.47 million. Effective implementation of test, track and treat approach has led to higher recoveries and lower fatality. The efforts to find a vaccine against COVID are on. British company AstraZeneca has expressed hope that a vaccine against the novel coronavirus developed by them would be ready by the end of 2020 or early 2021, despite having to pause clinical trials. In the world of sports, let's take a look at our daily reckoner of sporting events from around the world.
In the US Open semi-finals, six-time champion Serena Williams will clash with Victoria Azarenka, while Jennifer Brady and Naomi Osaka will battle it out in the women's singles. Daniil Medvedev will face off with Dominic Thiem, and Pablo Carreño Busta plays Alexander Zverev in the men's event. From the world of cycling, the Tour de France entered Stage 12 on Thursday. Caleb Ewan won the Stage 11 of the 21-stage event in a close finish ahead of Sam Bennett. In football, this year's edition of the Asian Football Confederation Cup has been cancelled amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the AFC said in a statement on Thursday. This is Pawan from Sports Desk for AIR World News.
A huge fire broke out today at the port of Beirut, the site of last month's catastrophic explosion that killed nearly 200 people and devastated parts of the capital. India is celebrating 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jantu, by Iranian singer. And with that, we end this edition of World News.